Raise your hand if this is your first time joining us today. Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us for the first time. I'd like to introduce Greg Parham with First Alliance Title. He is one of the main sponsors bringing you this event. Charles Roberts in the back. Raise your hand, please. York Castle Real Estate. And my name is Joe Massey. I'm with Castle & Cook Mortgage. So a couple of things before we get started and bring up our first speaker. If you need to use the restroom during our presentation, if you could go out those back doors right there. It gets kind of loud if we open this door a bunch of times and it makes it distracting for everyone. So if you need to step out, take a phone call, anything like that, just go out the back doors. Restrooms are around to the right. Pre-registration. Thank you all, everyone that pre-registered. We really appreciate that. That allows us to have the appropriate amount of food, allows us to make sure we have enough seats. If you didn't pre-register, that's okay. Greg is not going to scold you, even though he really wants to. I'm just kidding. But in the future, please always make sure if you can pre-register, that allows us to have the appropriate amount of food, enough chairs, etc. This is a little different than some of the other events where we just invite as many people as we can because we have food and a limited amount of space. We just like to make sure that we have everyone registered for the event, have your name tags, etc. So what we're going to do today, we're going to start with Aaron Lebovic from Renav. Anybody that has not used this software, I'm going to start by telling you it's one of the most amazing pieces of software I've ever seen in real estate. I would highly encourage you to check it out. Please take notes today as Aaron goes along. Aaron's been in real estate for 15 years?
About 15, yeah.
About 15 years. Started in Chicago in real estate and investing. Been here in Denver for close to 10 years, I believe now. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
All right, and he has a tremendous knowledge on foreclosure properties, off-market deals, finding properties, and his software that he developed called Renav is a great resource that's going to help you find properties. So I want to take a quick poll. Raise your hand if you're tired of this low inventory environment. Okay, raise your hand if you're struggling to find deals. All right, we brought Aaron today because he's going to help you with that. He's going to give you some really good tips, some tricks, some ideas that are going to help with that problem. Please take notes. Please give him your full attention. And then at the end of the session, we've got a couple more steps coming up, and then we'll do some networking, talk about some other ways that we can find deals. So Aaron, take it away.
Thanks, Joe. All right. Hi, everybody. Well, first, I just want to say thanks so much for having me, and thanks to the leaders, Charles, Lon, Joe, Greg. You know, they put a lot of time and work into this to help you support your business, help you find deals and make deals as real estate investors or real estate agents. And so I just appreciate that. And obviously they offer services as well. So they might not ask for it, but I will. A great thing to do is to reciprocate and help them grow their businesses as well. So thank you guys so much for having me. I see a lot of familiar faces in here. That is so cool. I just love doing this, these investor groups, and I'm glad to be here. So today is going to be a little different. Today, mostly what I'm going to be talking about is directly where to find the deals using Renav and some cool features, one of which is brand new that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. To get started though, I'm going to ask you to look on your table. Everybody should have a flyer that says Renav on one side, and on the other side is a foreclosure timeline. So I'm going to ask you to pull out a copy of that, and there should be enough on each table, but go ahead now that that's being distributed. Please raise your hand if you need a copy. Please raise your hand if you need a copy. Because we're actually going to be covering this timeline, so I want you to keep that handy. All right, one over here. Do you mind passing this, please? Thank you. All right. So where to find deals and how to find deals, that's what we're going to be talking about, and let's go ahead and get started. So, oh, I love having the slides up there. That's nice. I can see what I'm talking about. That's so cool. I'm a geek for this kind of stuff.
They didn't have that before.
No. Does anyone else read like office supply catalogs? Am I the only one? I'm like, ooh, nice desk. So, all right, so a little bit about me. I'm a co-owner of this company, Renav.com. It all started because I was a real estate investor in Chicago in 2002. And 2002 through about 2009, I'd invested in over 130 properties. Most of them were bought at foreclosure auctions, both in Chicago, and then eventually I had moved back here to Colorado. And then in 2009, I started this software company because what happened was so many real estate investors were coming into the auctions asking me to teach them how basically to compete against me and buy foreclosures or find deals. And there was not a service that existed that did a really great job of catching distressed homeowners, people who need help, and real estate agents and real estate investors who could offer their services to help them. And so I helped start this company, Renav.com. We track foreclosures throughout the state of Colorado. We're only in Colorado. And there's a lot of opportunities to find deals throughout that foreclosure timeline, which we're about to go over. So I'm also the regional director of a team at Keller Williams Realty. York Castle, of course, is a fabulous brokerage as well. Our team, I have 3 teams in Colorado Springs, Littleton, and Denver. Last year we closed 168 transactions. And so I'm coming to you from your perspective as well, whether you're a real estate agent or a real estate investor, you're looking for deals, and that's what we're going to be talking about. So Renav.com is very affordable. You can see there's a deal on your table if you want to take a look at that. So let's take a look at the timeline and let's talk about the different points in time to find deals. I'm about to teach an 8-hour class in the next 5 minutes. Right? So if I lose anybody or if you want more details, I'm happy to hang behind. I'll be on the panel later. And also just know there's other class options where I go into much more detail into this. So the foreclosure process starts essentially when the borrower defaults and the bank wakes up and says, you know what, we have not received a payment for a while, or the borrower defaulted for one reason or another, and we want to start the foreclosure process. They do that by filing a notice of election and demand. This document is prepared by typically the bank's attorney and sent to the public trustee's office for recording. And the recording date of the notice of election and demand, the NED, is very important. It determines who can do what, when, and how throughout the timeline. Now, as a reminder, you all have a copy of this in front of you, and if you want a different, more clear version, there's one if you visit renav.com/timeline. Renav.com. It's a PDF. You can even print it if you like. Renav.com/timeline. And so anyway, the notice of election and demand gets filed, and the foreclosure sale date will be set to take place in a window of time being 110 to 125 days from the day the NED is filed. So in short, NED gets filed and recorded, and the foreclosure auction date is set to take place in about 4 months. The time period between the NED being filed and the foreclosure sale date, this is called the cure period. If you take nothing else away from this portion of the presentation, just know this. The cure period is designed to give the distressed homeowner enough time to make the decision to not lose their house to foreclosure auction. It's designed to give enough time for them to decide to work with you. You know, their options are limited. They could win the lottery, or they could sell the property to their cousin. They could file a bankruptcy, which is really typically only a temporary measure, or they could sell it through a real estate agent, or they could sell it to a real estate investor. Now, depending on what perspective you're coming from will determine what you say to that person. And so if you're a real estate investor, you're saying, don't put a sign in the yard and let everybody know your house is in foreclosure. Don't let people come in through an open house disrupting your life. You don't have to clean up. You don't have to make repairs. I'll buy it as is. I'll close on the timeline you want, and I'll give you a fair price for the property. And to some people, that's really attractive. They don't want showings and a disruption of their lives. They might be embarrassed. And so we want to help them with where their head is at. Obviously, if you're a real estate agent, your script is a little different. Let's put a sign in the yard and let the world know through the MLS that this property is available for sale. Let's get in as many offers as possible, and let's sell it for the highest price possible, netting you hopefully the most amount of money you'll make. And so just know your scripts, know what you're going to say, and also have the lens of how can I come from contribution and help them with what they're going through. So this is about 4 months. I would say this is where the volume of opportunity is, because most properties that fall into foreclosure don't actually end up going to sale. They end up getting sold before the auction, or the loan is cured because they were able to fix the problem, typically. So there's opportunity, the massive amount of opportunity is right here. Now at the foreclosure auction, in order for a property to sell at auction, the lender has to submit a bid at least 2 business days by noon prior to the sale. And that becomes public record. And so now we know a couple days before auction what's going to sale and what the opening bid price is going to be. The lender could retract that bid and it could not go to sale, but at least we have a couple of days to start doing our due diligence. In my other classes, I talk about risks associated with buying at auction and ways to protect yourself, of course. So the public trustee sale, if that ends up taking place, the same process has to happen after the auction. The confirmation deed, that's the deed that the winning bidder gets. By the way, there's 2 possible winning bidders at a foreclosure auction. There's a real estate investor, so who here is interested in buying foreclosures at auction? Raise your hand. Okay, good amount of us. There's investors like us who could buy a property at foreclosure auction. And then the other possible winning bidder is the bank. So the bank is submitting a bid or posting a bid 2 days before the auction, and if no investor comes in to compete against the bank, then the bank is going to be the winning bidder. Make sense? That's how an REO is made, real estate owned by the bank. That's actually one of 2 ways an REO is made. What's one, just for funsies, what's one other way that an REO is made, where the property is owned by the homeowner today, and it's owned by the bank tomorrow, and the bank didn't take it via foreclosure auction? Does anyone know?
Deed in lieu.
Deed in lieu, all right, in unison, I love that. Deed in lieu of foreclosure, that's where the homeowner figuratively hands the keys over to the bank saying, don't foreclose against me, you could just have it back. The reality is you have to dequalify in order to give the keys back to the bank. They're going to want to see your bank statements, your assets, your personal financial statement in order to qualify you for that. Anyway, so foreclosure auction, there is a lot to buying at foreclosure auction, a lot of risks, and it's a cash business. If you want to ask any questions while I'm in the panel, or we can talk after or come to a class, there's a lot more behind that. Again, 8-hour class. So foreclosure auction takes place. If there's no liens junior recorded on title, there's no liens junior to the foreclosure lien position, the foreclosing lien position, then if there's no junior liens, then the title will automatically go to the winning bidder. If there are liens junior to the foreclosing lien position that were A, originally made and recorded prior to the recording date of the notice of election and demand, so like if this was filed in late 2017, any liens junior to the foreclosing lien position that want to exercise their rights, which I'll get into in a second, they have to have originally been made and recorded prior to the recording date of the NED in order to exercise their rights. And they have to file a document called a Notice of Intent to Redeem with the public trustee saying, hey, I want to come in and redeem out the auction buyer, or I want excess proceeds. And what does that mean? What that means is liens junior to the foreclosing lien position have the right to swoop in and steal the property from whoever bought it at foreclosure auction. It's a possibility for a junior lien to come in and say, hey, the auction buyer bought the property for $100,000. I'm going to pay him that or her that $100,000, and I want title to the property. And there's no limit to how many junior liens have redemption rights and excess proceeds rights. As long as they were originally made and recorded prior to the recording date of the NED, they file an intent to redeem, and of course they have to be a valid lien. So let's recap this in summary of opportunities to find deals. And I'm about to show you some actual data using renav.com on where you can find them and what kind of data we're coming up with. And by data, I mean leads for you to find listings or to find investment deals. So there's before the foreclosure auction, some companies put out 30, 60, 90-day late lists. There's also some cool indicators that somebody might end up going into foreclosure, and I can share that with you in just a moment. There's once the NED is filed, Renav is set up so you could do a search. Show me properties meeting the criteria that I'm looking to invest in, and only email me when they hit the NED list. Meaning only when properties like this fall into foreclosure. It's kind of like the MLS, but for distressed properties. Show me only properties that are going to foreclosure auction in 30 to 60 days. So the people's cure period are coming up to an end, and they've got to get their head out of the sand and make a decision to sell. Right? You could do that kind of search to find higher motivated people. So that's during the cure period. Buying at auction, properties are trickling through the auction block. So I say it might not be an effective use of your time to make it a full-time job to buy a foreclosure auction because there's so few deals. And also, I come in and tell rooms, hey, don't make this your full-time job. You might not even want to look at it. And so maybe that's a good reason you should look at it. Up to you. So, and then there's an opportunity, so you might be asking, well, if a judgment collection agency or a credit card judgment has junior lien on title and has redemption rights, what does that mean to me? And the answer is, you could buy those liens for their redemption rights or for their excess proceeds rights. Usually when it's a junior lien that swoops in and buys out an auction buyer after auction, and the junior lien holder is the one that gets the property, it's typically not the original creditor. It's an investor who bought it. Sometimes at a discount, sometimes not. So there's a lot of opportunity through this foreclosure timeline. I'm going to be only talking about a couple different points in time. Any questions? I think we're running good on time for me to take a step and answer questions. Yeah?
So, does the second, and if the first junior lien buys out the deal, what does that do to the second junior lien?
Yeah, good question. So the way it really works is, let's say there's two junior liens that file intends to redeem. Both of them want to redeem out the auction buyer, both of them want the property. The way it works is, as long as both of these junior liens file an intent to redeem within 8 business days following the auction, the public trustee will put them in order to redeem based on when their lien was originally made and recorded. So for example, let's say this loan, this deed of trust that's foreclosing, by the way, I use the term deed of trust because in Colorado that's actually what they're called. They're not called mortgages. We just loosely call them mortgages. So this deed of trust was made in 2015. This junior lien was made in 2016 and recorded. This one was recorded in 2017. What happens is the public trustee says, okay, you're first in line to redeem. You have a window of time being 15 to 19 business days following the auction to come in with the amount of money necessary to redeem out that auction buyer. And when they do that, they get what's called a certificate of redemption. And what that says is, hey, congratulations, you may or may not end up owning the property. Because what can prevent you from owning it, you the junior lien who redeemed out the auction buyer, is that a lien junior to yours who filed an intent to redeem can come in with the amount of money necessary to pay you off in full based on what you're owed, plus what you paid to the foreclosure auction buyer. That way you as the second on title will be made whole, and it's the final junior lien that redeems that's actually going to be the one that gets title to the property.
What if the third one doesn't redeem? They wiped out? Or
yeah, they get wiped out, or if there's excess proceeds based on competitive bidding, then they might get money that resulted from the sale if there's enough to provide it. Yeah, great question. I had one in the back. Somebody in the back? Anybody else? Maybe that was the same question. Who else has a question? All right, yeah.
You talk about the days. Is that sequential or is it like accumulative?
Yeah, so the way it works is the foreclosure auction takes place, and the first lien junior to the foreclosing lien position that files an intent to redeem has a window of time being 15 to 19 business days following the auction to redeem out the auction buyer. And then the second lien junior to the foreclosing lien position that also filed an intent to redeem has a subsequent 5 business days. So basically it would be business days 15 through 19 for the first junior lien, and business days 20 through 24 from the original sale date. Yeah, good question. Yes, hi John.
Hi. So if the original lender who's foreclosing,
Let's say that the amount that's currently owed on the mortgage is $400,000, and they put a bid in of $300,000, and it gets bid up to $350,000, say. Does that $50,000 go back to them even though they bid less than what they were owed?
Correct. If the bank opens up at what's called a deficiency, meaning less than what they're owed, that lender who foreclosed is entitled up to 100% of what they're owed based on if bidding allows it. So yes, in your case, the lender that's foreclosing would get the total $350,000. But if the bidding goes up to $405,000, The first lender gets 4, I'm just explaining this for everyone else's benefit, and then that creates 5,000 in excess proceeds. Okay, one more question and then I'll move on. All right, cool. All right, let's get to some deals. I did this search yesterday, and it's a simple search. You click a button and it says, show me foreclosures filed in the last 7 days. And on that list, you can see all the counties that we track. And so I did a simple search. Show me properties that fell into foreclosure in the last 7 days in the Denver metro area alone. And there's 55. 55 homes just fell into foreclosure in the last 7 days. Could you deal with 55 leads a week? Is that maybe too many? That's a lot. Depending on your strategy, I mean, if you send it to your mailing house, that's awesome, right? And the recurring mailings is really key to that. And if you want a door knock, we should probably narrow it down. So whether it's you looking for a house for your client, is anyone else having some issue with a lack of inventory and getting buyers under contract? Right? So if you're doing a search for your client, just like you would in the MLS, but show me NEDs that were filed meeting the criteria of properties that were not on the MLS, well, now you're door knocking or you're reverse searching to cold call. You're sending letters consistently to try to find them that deal without any other competition. And you can come to them from the perspective of selling it like an agent to make sure that the seller gets top dollar and having the benefits as if it was an investor. I'm not going to do an open house. I'm not going to trample people through. My buyer will take it as is. The whole world doesn't need to know you're in foreclosure. You see, so you could do this search. This is one I did yesterday, and basically it's all 7 counties, foreclosure. Out of those 55, how many had an assessed value up to $300,000? Now, we know, most of us know that the assessor values are running really low right now, and so this, we can make a mental adjustment that this is really like up to $350,000 or $360,000 for actual market value. At least 3 bedrooms, at least 2 bathrooms, not listed on the MLS, and only detached single-family houses. How many people in this room have an investment strategy where this exact type of property would meet that criteria? Yeah, all right. Here's a recommendation. Get a pen and paper handy. I did this search yesterday. These are leads. I've had a woman call me after a class I presented at. It was a live demo. And she said there were 2 properties that I had pulled up. She said she drove by both of them immediately after the class, signed one as a listing, and oh, by the way, that one also owned a couple of other properties that he needed to sell. So she said she was going to be a subscriber for life. I don't know, I didn't follow up on that, but the point is, this is real life here. Can you read that even? It's a little small. But anyway, out of the 55, we're cutting through the clutter and only looking exactly for what is our ideal investment criteria. There are 13 properties. These are 13 real-life leads that just fell into foreclosure that need a solution. And if you come from contribution solution-minded, you're who they need to talk to. All right, so I'm using one property as an example, 7937 Downing Street. I'll go through a quick tutorial of what kind of information you have access to really fill in some gaps so you know when you knock on the door, you have information. By the way, I do see some people taking photos of these. If you want to just give me your business card, it doesn't have to be everybody certainly, but I'll send you a copy of the presentation. Or if it's okay with Greg, I could just send it to everybody, I don't know. We'll talk about that. So 7937 Downing Street. This property just fell into foreclosure in the last 7 days. It's owned by Oscar Alvarez. He bought it in 2016, so recently, for $287,000. It's got excuse me for looking this way while talking to you guys. It's got 4,600 square feet. Here's the legal, here's the subdivision, assessor value, which of course is really low right now. It's got 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, almost 2,000 square feet, built in 2000 with a garage, maybe no basement. So as you see here, I'm on the assessor information. Now I'm clicking through. I'm going to skip trustee and talk about loans. Do not trust RENAV as your source for title work. Okay, we have this data source that gives us all deeds of trust on title and certain other liens as well. And so what we have here is our best guess as to how many deeds of trust are on title, and we think there's only one. It was made in 2016 when he bought the property, and the loan amount was almost 280, excuse me. And so when the NED was filed, this is really valuable information, guys, because when the notice of election and demand is filed, it shows what was the original loan balance and what does the bank report as the current principal balance owed on the loan. Now we can tell how much equity might there be in this property based on how much they've paid it down. Usually it's not 2016 loans in foreclosure, it's like 2007 loans that are in foreclosure. And it's anyone's guess as to how much it's been paid down, but we have this information. So the current loan amount, the principal balance owed currently is about $273,000. Remember that number, 273. Now let's go to auction analysis. I'm a real estate licensed broker. Don't throw anything at me, I love you. But we do use Zillow numbers for like a quick estimate of how much a property might be worth. It may be way off, it might be extremely accurate. It's more accurate than assessor value at this moment, so if that means anything. And so the Zillow potential value is $342,000. How much is owed on the loan? Could this be a deal?
Plus back interest.
Plus back interest, yeah. Now sometimes banks will, in their NED filing, they'll include back interest. Sometimes they won't. And sometimes it's a 2007 loan that was made for $200,000 and the current principal balance owed on the loan today in 2018 is $200,000. Like sometimes banks get lazy about that too. Anyway, yeah, so could it be a deal? It might not be, but this was one of the first ones I pulled up, so I figured I'd share it with you. So 7937 Downing Street, there's cool functionality like let's see where it is on a map. You can zoom in, zoom out. You can look at the street view, go up and down the block. There's some other features too, like trustee sale comps. If you're thinking of bidding at auction and you're wondering, how much are investors buying these types of properties for at auction? Like, it's almost like pulling comps, but showing foreclosure sale results and the investors that are buying them and how much they're paying. That's what this trustee sale comps tool is for. By the way, if you have a property, who here has had a property to sell where there was just no way it was going to qualify for conventional FHA or VA financing? It had to be an investor based on the condition that buys it. Who here has had that kind of property? Well, this is also your buyer's list, because these investors who are buying at foreclosure auction are cash as is, no contingencies. A lot of times they don't even get inside the property and they close within 2 days. That's a pretty good buyer's list. So what I'm going to fast forward to, oh, and we also have a market comps tool. I'm not going to show you that either, but I will give you a hint. Well, let me ask, who here does not have access to the MLS itself? Who here is not a real estate broker and doesn't have access to the MLS? Okay. So you're probably, you might be asking your realtor to pull comps quite a bit. Here's a hint, if you go to the home page on renav.com, we've tied in the MLS and we're updating it daily. So you could do a search for free in the Denver metro area and it's updated daily. Show me comps, including properties that are under contract and properties that have sold. So real live sold MLS comps. That's updated every day using the home page. Go down to the bottom, there's a box, type in an address in the Denver area, and click comps. It's a free tool. And that's similar to what we have here, except we've already put in the property address and information, and we're getting you a head start. So now we're at the My Values tool. Now let's say I drive by and I say, okay, based on when I think the project is going to be done, I estimate that properties are going to be selling for about $350 in this area, but the property's got to look nice. And I think it needs $10,000 worth of work. And I need to make $25,000 on the deal net profit in order to make it worth my while. I can expect to spend about 1% of the sale price towards concessions. Maybe it's down payment assistance, maybe it's negotiating inspection items. And I'm going to pay 6% to a real estate agent to list and sell it. And I'm gonna add $5,000 for closing costs, money cost, and even fluff when I get behind a wall and my contractor inevitably tells me, oh, we didn't know about this problem, that's gonna cost you an extra $2,000. Has anyone experienced that? A little bit? So even including some fluff to make sure we're in good position, I click save and update, and the system tells me the most I should pay for the property while still hopefully making $25,000 net profit should be $285,000. Okay, so this is not an all-inclusive, believe me. Lon has spreadsheets that does a much better job of qualifying deals and costs and expenses. This is just like a surface check, okay? All right, so then the last one is a print PDF. This is actually, oh, and by the way, I'm not gonna show you notes, but you can add notes. Just so you know, I've gotten asked this question before, who else sees the information that I'm inputting here on this property profile? And the answer is it's just for your eyes only. We're not sharing your notes or your numbers, obviously, with any other subscribers. And so the last one is print PDF. And this is what you take out with you when you go knock on a door. And if anyone asks you, how did you get my information? Make us the bad guy. It's renav.com. I don't know. This just came across my desk, and I'm just here to help. Renav is the one that's sharing all your information. It's public record, so I'll take that call. So what it includes, though, is your notes that you might have input, your numbers down here at the bottom, and all the pertinent information to help you make an informed and educated decision and also advise them well. It shows the foreclosure auction date here. It's in writing. I'm not making this up. I've had people tell me that they've knocked on doors and the homeowner knew they haven't been making payments, but they didn't know the NED is filed. Because there are some companies that put out free NED lists, notice of election and demand lists, like title companies. Good chance if you're receiving that we're actually the one that provides that list. And it's a very limited amount of information and it's a little delayed. This is real time. I mean, we update our site 5 days a week, and the public trustee, once they record it, they have to send out a mailer to the homeowner. And a lot of times our clients are knocking on doors before the homeowner has even received the letter from the public trustee that the foreclosure has actually been filed. So if you want to talk about first to knock on the door and come from contribution, subscribing is where it's at. All right, so any questions on the foreclosure data and information that we share before I move on to the next topic? Okay, so now this is a new feature. This is an add-on feature. It costs a little bit extra money on top of your subscription. And what this is a brand new feature. And what it does is it looks up what liens have been recorded. And so you can see what we have here: HOA liens, mechanics liens, city and county tax liens, state tax liens, federal liens. You think this could be an indicator, maybe even if the property isn't in foreclosure right now, it could be an indication that they might be soon, or at least they're experiencing some financial distress. Yeah, and with property values being where they're at right now, people might even have more equity in their house than they even know. And this is a burden on people's shoulders that they could get rid of by selling their house and being done with their debts. And so we're tracking that information. Currently, we're only in the Denver metro area. We're happy to expand if we get enough requests for it outside of the Denver metro area. But you could look up a specific address to see if there's liens that we show. Or you could just say, show me all HOA liens recorded in Denver County in the last 30 days. If you wanted to, you could even cross-reference it with those that are in foreclosure. And so here's a list. There's 16 properties just in Denver County alone that had HOA liens recorded in the last 30 days. I'm going to take that in for a second.
You get those benefits too?
I don't think so. That's a question for Neil.
Okay.
I'm not sure though. So I went into one of them here on 22nd Street, and here you see the kind of information that we have. The address, obviously, the property, let's see, I thought I saw a name. Defendant. Okay. Defendant is on there? Yeah, Matthew, sorry, thank you. Matthew. So you have the property owner's name, and you also have, what's the Zillow estimated value? It's $480,000. And because we track liens on title, we have a sense of how many deeds of trust are on title and possible other liens and how much equity there might be in the property. And so in this example, there's $340,000 potential equity between the $148,000 loan and the potential $480,000 to $490,000 value of the property. Okay, that's a lot of equity. All right, any questions on the lien search? Lon asked a good one earlier. The question was, is there a lis pendens? Meaning, is there a suit pending on title? It could be because it's another type of lien that's foreclosing, or a suit to quiet title to clean up title issues. I'm sure there's other reasons for lis pendens, but honestly, I don't know if we have access to that data. I'd have to check with my business partner. Yeah.
I don't even know right now.
Oh, perfect, thanks. Yes.
I have a question. Like, for me, it feels, just my personality feels unethical. Like people, it's like go after people's hardships. Do people ever go and maybe try to sit down and help these people, and you become the bank to try to help them keep their house, or you can earn that way? Because for me to go after someone who's in a hardship, and I don't know, it just doesn't feel good.
Yeah. So the question is to her. Can you say, yeah? To her, it feels unethical that you're. I think it's all mindset. And I don't know if you've heard me say this a couple times, but coming from contribution, adding value, seeing how you can help them, that's the key to this. If you're coming in like a shark trying to steal someone's property, yeah, you shouldn't do that. But if you're finding ways of helping them, including your suggestion of possibly making them a loan, to help them with their situation, then great. If that's how you want to execute your investment strategy, I have 2 thumbs up on that. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
So if you're lending against foreclosures, you should get an attorney to help you do that, because that space is fraught.
Yeah, consult an attorney, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, last question, and then I've got to move on.
What percentage of your business that you closed last year was from foreclosures?
So the question is, what percentage of my business, which was 168 properties, $57 million in sales last year, what percentage of them is foreclosures? And probably we sold 1 property that was in foreclosure. We're really good at, and the way my team model works, we're really good at helping Tom and Mary buy a house, or Sally and Joe sell their house. If I had team members on my team that were eager to use this information and execute on it, I do believe they could make a killing. It's just not our full-time gig right now. Yeah, so I'm also not competing against you, if that means anything for you. But I might be. Just gonna throw that out there. If I have a team member that wants to, they can do it. Yeah, they're not even trying. And I think that's a way big loss right now. So anyway, Colorado Property Database, I'm gonna close out with this. So what this is, and this is free to RENAV subscribers, baseline subscription. And what you can do is you can look up detailed information about properties and even property owners. So if you go to this site and click advanced here and type in a name as an example, this is a name Greg gave me earlier. He said, Aaron, what properties show up as being owned by this person? And so I did the search and I found 2 properties. So if you want to see where people own property or get details of people's properties, if you want to look up that neighbor where the weeds are growing and the house looks vacant and you want to see what's going on with it, throw in the address and see what's up. And so here's some information that we're providing. It's just a highlight, and that's the property summary. It's got a 3-car garage, 3 beds, 3 baths, a finished basement, 1,500 square feet with a 718 square foot basement. The assessor value is $287. And you see we have other information as well up here, like property history. That is liens. That's a history of liens, of deeds of trust that we detect on title. Foreclosure history, if there's been any foreclosure filings. Estimated value, my partner Neil built a comping tool, not unlike Zillow, but it's our own version that's looking for both properties that have sold on the MLS as well as public records. Maybe a FSBO that's off-market, an off-market sale. And then prospecting list as well. So I'm going to go into the estimated value. I don't know if it's right, I don't know if it's wrong, it's an algorithm, of course condition makes a big difference, but this estimates the value at being 431,000, and here's the comps that we show, including some that are not listed on the MLS, and some that are. So you also, if you have a property that's really hard to comp, and you're trying to help a seller determine market value, this is a good way to see what's sold that hasn't hit the market. All right, guys, so I'm going to close out with this information. Looks like I'm getting the hook here. We've got, out of the 19 counties that we have, this is really the column to note. This is how many properties are currently actively in foreclosure where the NED has been filed but the property is not sold at auction yet. These are listing and investing opportunities. There's over 3,000, and 90% of them are not on the MLS. All right, so here's pricing if you're interested. It's normally $50 a month. You've got a flyer for a discount. If you want the lien add-on data, that's an additional $15 a month for the first county. As you add additional counties, it gets significantly cheaper. And there's a 7-day free trial. So the code is APR19. If you want to subscribe by April 20th, instead of paying $50 a month for the first county, you have time to do a free trial, see if you even like it. Use this code, and this is not a teaser rate. It'll continue for as long as you continue to subscribe. We also have free demos. We can even do free private demos for how to use the tool, because it can be a little detailed on how to use it for your benefit and how you're trying to use it. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for letting me present.
Thank you very much. Great information from Aaron Lebovic with Renav. What I love about that is the last slide. 3,300 properties that are not on the MLS, that the buyers or the owner is behind, that they may or may not be doing anything. It's a great opportunity. How many properties are on the MLS right now? Like 4,000?
Yeah.
All right, so we can almost double the size of the MLS just by reaching out to these people, by using some of the tools that Aaron showed us. We've actually got another presenter that's going to help us with how we can reach out to some of those. Well, let's talk about our next presenter, Gregory Parham from York, no, not York Castle, First Alliance Title. I can't remember where you work. Greg Parham, First Alliance Title. He's also a real estate attorney, and it's going to give us some great information about probate, what you do when a property that you want to buy, the person has passed away. So let's pay attention to Greg, and got about half an hour.
Right. Ready to talk about dead people? Right? Yeah. How many of you right now look through newspapers to find probate leads? Anyone? Anyone going after that? Raise your hand. A couple people, maybe? Okay. So my goal today is to show you why you might want to go after these properties. Kind of discuss a little bit about what probate is so that you understand whether a property is going to be there or not. And then and show you how to find them really quickly and easily. Okay? So probate is a process by which when the dead person is dead, and if they have assets in their individual name, those assets have to be basically collected and distributed. So in Colorado, it's a really simple process. It's usually called informal probate. Two types of probate in Colorado, one's informal and one's formal. So it's a super easy process for people to do, and that's why, but most people don't know that. So it's a really good opportunity for somebody like it's an investor or realtor to approach somebody that's handling a probate and say, I can help you through this process, because it's not so bad. So let me just define when you have to probate, because this is a really confusing thing for a lot of people. If I die and I own one piece of property, real estate. If I own real estate, doesn't matter what the value is, it can be even upside down. I would have to go through a probate, somebody would have to go through that probate, I wouldn't because I'm dead, to sell that property, if I owned it individually, okay? Now you also have to go through a probate when somebody has a certain amount of money in their estate, but they might not have real estate. So I'm telling you that because sometimes when you go search for probates, there might be a probate out there, but there's no real property involved. So it's a two-step process. We have to figure out, is it a probate, and is there some real property involved? And that means, once you find out the second one, then you can go after it, okay? Questions on that? All right. So the steps of the probate are pretty important just to kind of give you an idea of where we're coming in the process. Like, how do we know that this is in probate and that a property is there that we might want to go after and try to help them sell it? There's really basic steps in a probate. Somebody petitions to be the personal representative or the executor. It's usually somebody named in the will, but if it's not somebody they named in the will, it's usually one of the family members. And so all they're really doing is filing a form with the court that says, hey judge, I agree to be the personal representative of the estate. It's going to be my job to collect all this stuff and then distribute it to the heirs. And it's almost like a rubber stamp approval for that person. You can get approved as a personal representative within a matter of days. And it's issued by the clerk of the court. So what happens is you file your petition, then you obtain letters. And that's the name of the document. It's letters testamentary or letters of administration. I don't know why they call it letters, probably because back in the day it was like a letter from the clerk or something that said you were authorized to transact on behalf of the estate. But that's what it is. It's a one-page document that says you are now authorized. You can sign now on behalf of that estate. You can start collecting money and notifying creditors, and you can also start to distribute assets and such, okay? So that's a really critical piece, is you have to have letters in order to have the authority to do something. The next step is, and it usually happens at the same time, when you file probate, what you'll usually do is you'll obtain your letters and you will notify creditors. What the notice to creditors is if you guys ever seen that in the paper, like notice to creditors, so you see with bankruptcy, you see with a whole bunch of different things, right? Probate's one of those things. It's a public notice that has to be published in some paper of general circulation. So the papers that probates are usually circulated in are the cheapest papers to place an ad in the Denver metro area. So it's a paper in the county of the probate. That's the cheapest one to print in. That's really what it comes down to. That's why you see a bunch of papers, like if you search the stuff, that you've never heard of in your life. And it's because all they print are notices. So it's the notices that we're going to go after, okay? Once the person then notifies creditors and a period of time goes by, they can then distribute all the assets to whoever are the heirs or the beneficiaries in the will. Questions on that? Yeah?
If you own property in another county, does that have to be listed in that county also?
No, it does not. So the question was, if I die and I've got property in 3 different counties, do we have to probate in all 3 counties? No. We would probate in the county of my residence. And then we collect all those assets. Just like if I die and maybe I'm a resident of Texas, but I've got properties here, then I would probate in Texas, but do what's called an ancillary probate here in Colorado, to collect the Colorado assets. Great question. Okay? So what we're looking for in our step of the process to find probate properties is, we're looking for the notice to creditors. So the old-fashioned way of doing that was to subscribe to all of these newspapers in the county that might publish the notices. When the newspapers come out weekly or bi-weekly or semi-monthly, what would happen is you would just look in there, you'd find out that somebody died, and you'd then research whether they had a property or not and see if you could contact the personal representative. Okay? That's the real slow way. Another way is people would ask the county to provide a service to give them copies of every single probate that's filed in that county. Does anybody do that? I have some investors that do that in Denver. Is it Denver that you're doing that in? Yeah. How much does it each time you do that?
$5.
Yeah, $5. So do you still do that? Okay. So it's like $5 a pop. And a lot of investors still do that. And so I'm going to show you how you can save that $5 a pop and do it much quicker. Okay? So we're going to find the notices with a website called Public Notice Colorado. Public Notice Colorado is a website that was designed as part of a law in Colorado to make sure that all of the different newspapers start publishing their notices through one channel on the internet, which makes sense. So when this was originally passed, it took a little while for all the newspapers to get on board because I think they had a little bit of a grace period to do that. But right now, it's really going well. So I stumbled across that statute when I was some legislative update, and then looked at the website and just couldn't believe what I found on it. So it's Public Notice Colorado, and it's your friend for these types of searches. So here's what the site looks like, and I didn't want to do a live demo because I didn't want the internet to get hung up. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be searching right here for keywords. We're going to be excluding some words, limiting it by county, and limiting it by date range. Okay? So our search words, if I want to search for notice to creditors having to do with probates and not bankruptcies or some other action, by the way, you can also search judicial foreclosures through this. Okay? Really easy way to search judicial foreclosures. So I am going to search, if I want probates, notice to creditors, personal representative, and I'm using all those words. I want all those words in my search. And then what I'm going to do is exclude these words. Why do I want to exclude those? I'm going to sit here forever until somebody figures this out. Yeah, I don't want to deal with the attorney. I want to deal with an individual person that's doing this. So I can hire an attorney to do a probate, or I can do it myself. Many personal representatives do it themselves. And if you're, if you may have the impression that, you know what, I would rather call this individual because I might have a value add, like how can I help them through this process? How can I explain to them how the sale might work with a house? Or I'm an investor and maybe they're in a situation where the deceased was a hoarder and their house is full of stuff and I'm an investor that really knows how to solve those problems, right? So it depends on who you want to contact. Now, if I would tell most of you that you might want to do this, but if I were going after probates on a sustained basis, I would do just the opposite. I would make sure to go after, I wouldn't exclude these. I would want to go after, who knows all the leading leading attorneys in Colorado that do probate? In Adams County. Yeah, none of you do, right? And if you go to the Colorado Bar Association, you can look up real estate or probate attorneys, any attorney by specialty area. But I have some, it's kind of like realtors. How many realtors advertise that they are residential and commercial and whatever else might come their way specialists? Right? Is that true? Attorneys do the same thing. So a general practitioner will often say, I do estate planning, I do real estate, because I wrote a contract once, I do probate, and they may do one probate a year. But they're advertising for that. So if you go to the Bar Association and look for those attorneys, you might be spending time calling somebody that does one probate a year. Instead, you can do these searches and you can track it for about 3 weeks and you can go, these are the top 5 attorneys that actually do probates in this county. Now I'm going to start networking with those attorneys. Really easy way to do it. But if you want to go after the individuals, here's how you do it. You go after the individual. So, date range, or county. You can select any county in Colorado. Publication, you don't want to select by publication. You don't want to narrow your result. And this, your date range. So if I'm doing this for the first time, what I probably want to do is put a date range of a few weeks on here. That's going to give me all the probate notices that were filed in the last 3 weeks. And then if I'm doing this on a daily basis, I'm actually going to track it every single day. I just want to update my search every day. Super easy to do. Most of these come out on Thursdays, by the way. So Monday through Wednesday, you're probably not doing many at all. And then on Friday, you're searching for a few more, or hopefully your virtual assistant is doing that for you, because it's a simple process. Questions on that? So now, when I put those search terms in and then I search it, what's going to happen is I'm going to get this list of all the different notices. It's kind of hard to read, up here it's a little blurry, but you do have a handout of this, and the one in the back's a little clearer for you guys in the back. But what it does is it shows what paper these are in. And this one I searched, just so you know, Jefferson County only. I just did Jefferson County. And I did it in like a 2 or 3 week range. So it's giving me all these notices to creditors, and you'll see it says personal representative, and I know that it's a personal representative, probate notice. So I'm going to take this one down here, because that happens to be a name that Aaron searched for me on his system. It's called Colorado Property Database. Is that what it is, Aaron? Yes. Yeah. So now when I open this up, so I'm going to look at this. Here it is. I would just click on this and open it. When I open it up, this gives me the actual notice. So there's a few important things in this notice. One is this is the deceased and all their AKAs they're known by. This one shows that the deadline for the notice to creditors, not really a big deal. And this one shows the personal representative. So this personal representative lives in Nevada. Same last name, right? Right? Yeah, so this is a personal representative. So if the notices are coming to this individual, they probably do not have an attorney helping them with this probate. They're probably doing it on their own. Sometimes what you'll see is not just their address of this individual, sometimes you'll actually see their email and their phone number, which is pretty ridiculous. It's really easy to follow up with them. A couple other things. When you publish a notice to creditors, you have to publish it for, I think it's 3 weeks. You have to do 3 notices. Okay? So it's going to tell you which notice this is. The first one was actually published in March 15th. This last publication is March 29. Okay? So it's telling you which publication this one is up here. So you'll see this one again and again and again until it's posted 3 times, noticed 3 times. So all you need to do is look at the first one. So you can actually narrow down your searches that way. Once you've kind of gone through 3 weeks of searches, you'll then know, oh, I've already looked at this one because it's a second notice or a third notice. Make sense? So what's the next step? Once I find out, and I know this person died, what's my next step?
Find out if they own.
Find out if they own anything, right? So then I go to, if you're a realtor, you can use Realist, because it's part of the MLS package that you got with RE Colorado. So in Realist, with this particular individual, there's two that come up. If you don't have Realist access, then go to Renav and use Aaron's. Same information. He might have some more detail in his that Realist doesn't scrub, and vice versa. I don't know. But what you're really trying to find out is, did that person own the property or not? And we find out that this person owned this property here, and also owned this one here. Would that be a good lead? Right? Don't you think? Okay.
Especially with an out-of-state personal representative.
Exactly. It makes you wonder why I picked that one, right? I'll tell you, you're not always going to get a hit, are you? There's going to be a lot of them that don't have a property. So if I'm in Realist, I just search. I'm going to search not by an address because I don't have an address. I'm going to search by the deceased name. And I try to do my search pretty general. Like for example, this person had a bunch of AKAs, so I just searched by last name, that's it. Because it's a unique name. If it was Smith, it would be a little more trouble. I'd go through a lot of people. Questions on that? And here's the other Renav breakdown of that property. Okay, so how might you reach out to these people? Huh? Phone call, right? Direct mail. So what do you think is the most effective way to reach out to people?
Every way you can.
Every way you can is the most effective? No, that's all the ways. No, really, what do you think the most effective way of reaching out to someone is? In person? Or calling them on the phone? Yeah. So I would highly recommend that. We've got some people today, Harold and Lonnie, they're going to tell us, Kohler, you guys may have used their services before, they're going to tell us about some mailing lists and how to mail and that kind of thing. But somebody had asked the question earlier on the foreclosures. What do I do? How do I approach that person and everything else? I think a really easy way of doing that is to show up at their door and to say, hey, hi, my name's Greg Parr, I'm a real estate broker in the area. Would you guys be interested in selling your house?
That's it.
That's it, right? Is there something wrong with that? Right. What if they, and then they're going to be like, no, get out of here. Well, do you know anybody else that might be, if you had to pick somebody, who would it be that might be wanting to sell their house in your neighborhood? Right? So you've had a conversation with them. So when it gets time consuming, obviously, if you're driving all over the city, trying to deliver 800 of these personal messages, it's going to be a little different, and that's when direct mail can make absolute sense. It can be a really, really effective way to get through to people. I've worked with a lot of investors that go after probates, and so what might be a good message if you're going to do the direct mail, for example? Anybody? Man, this is a tough group today. Holy cow, you guys are the most uncreative people I've ever met in my life. I know we're talking about dead people, holy cow. We're looking to buy properties. Yeah, it might just be a general kind of, hey, we're looking to buy properties in your neighborhood. Might not have to have anything to do with death, but it could also mean, it could also be a kind of a letter that says, hey, I understand what's going on. You may have all these problems solved, but if you'd like to get an analysis on what your property's worth, or some of the access to some of the resources we have, like, we have all the fixer-upper people, we've got all these other resources, we can help you. It's a kind of, what's your value add, right? That's really what it is. So, any other suggestions that you guys have used successfully? How many of you closed a probate off of one of these leads? I have. Yep. And you know what? It was a short sale. And the heirs made zero money. You know why they did it? Because they felt like they needed to, and they wanted to feel good about it. They wanted to just wrap everything up for Dad. That's what it was. I told them, I said, you should just let it go to foreclosure. And they said, no, we want to just wrap it up. It was a personal introduction to them. It wasn't a mailer. I personally was at their door and asked them about it, and it made all the difference in the world. So it does work. So if you're going to try it, this is a really easy way to do it. If you're going to set this system up, what I would recommend that you do is you do a search for 2 weeks, log your information, put it on a spreadsheet, and then every other day after that, just update it. And it's so easy that you can put it in a spreadsheet, and that way you can just generate automatic letters if you want to. Okay? Any other questions before we get Harold and Lonnie up here? That's it? All right, thanks.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Always have good information from Greg, and frankly, I don't understand it all. That's why we have Greg to explain that to us. What I will tell you, though, is I've actually closed some probate transactions on the loan side, and once you find the property, you deal with the personal representative, it's actually pretty straightforward. And you guys specialize that at First Alliance. You'll do those, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because there are some challenges with title and whatnot. So while we get the next presentation loaded up, what we've spoken about with Renav and then with Greg's presentation is how to find these leads. Where is this information? All right, we found it through Renav, we found it through the public records search. Now that you've got your list of 50, 100, 1,000 properties, now you need to know how to go out and reach out to them. And Greg brought up a great point. You can go door knock. I have a lot of clients that do that and actually make a lot of money simply just knocking on the door and saying, hi, I'm Joe, I'd like to buy your house. Takes a lot of time though, and can be draining. So that works for some people, but if that doesn't work for you, what we're going to talk about next is going to be a really good value for you. And this is Harold and Lonnie, and they have a direct marketing business. And as I understand it, Harold is the list master. He understands lists and narrowing down your data and fine-tuning your data better than anybody that we've ever had. And Lonnie, she is a creative genius. She handles putting together the mailer, what's it gonna look like, having your call to action, the right colors, the right paper, the right envelope. And so these guys are really gonna help you that once you've worked with Greg or once you've worked with Aaron at Renav and you're gonna have your list, you're gonna work with these guys and they're gonna do the mailing, help you put together your letter, fine-tune your list, and then start getting these mailers out. So I'm excited to bring these guys up and hear what they have to say.
It's going to be hard to live up to, but I appreciate it very much. It was very nice. So I'm Harold Kohler, and this is Lonnie Kohler. And our company is Kohler Marketing Group, and we have a associated partner company, which is Unique Litho. So I've been in the list business for about 35 years, and that's where my career really in this area started. And during that time, and presently, we serve almost all the title companies in that they refer to us usually when they have an investor, a real estate agent, or a mortgage person who needs a list, needs help. They often come to us, and we, with our experience, are able to produce that at low cost and quickly. So we also, in addition to lists, have about 20 years ago started in the printing and the mailing business. So we kind of couple two things. Often when we are getting the list, we're really focused on how do we get results and what's the next step. So what we're going to talk about today is lists, and I'm going to kind of go through lists a little bit quickly because we've kind of been talking about a lot of list information. But usually what happens with a list, yeah, they're working on it, I'll just kill time here. A list situation usually starts with an email or a phone call to somebody, to me. And so here are the items that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the list options, then we're going to talk about direct mail and options for mailing pieces. I think you'll find all that very interesting. With a list, usually it starts with a phone call. Somebody says, well, I want to get a list of some people that I can buy their houses from. And so usually it starts with, that's the desire of the person, but they haven't really often really focused it on what they want. But I can, to get started, need to focus them. So I usually, first I go, what is your geography? Are you going to be interested in a certain county, all the counties? Is it Metro Denver? Is it other counties? So usually then we can start, investor, the real estate agent will start thinking, well, yeah, I guess I would start with Arapahoe County. That's where my office is. Okay, so what next? What are you're looking for properties, or are you looking just for single family homes? What's your building type? Do you want townhomes? Do you want condos? Do you want duplexes, triplexes? Do you want 4-unit apartment buildings? Maybe you're interested in commercial rates. So we start to narrow down and we're focusing some more. Are there owner-occupied people that you want the list, list for, or are they non-owner occupied, or is it both? And we start to go through the process. What's your value? Is it important that you want the owner to have already owned this home for 10 years? Maybe he's more likely to want to sell. Are we interested in year built? Is that a factor? A lot of times I find investors want houses built before 1980. But whatever, we can set that period so we can get a flavor of what this house is going to be like if we have an opportunity to buy it. Or you can look at the specified mortgage value, low and high. Do we care about how much equity they have? Sometimes that is important because you might go in there with a fairly low price, and if the person is upside down, you could be wasting your time. So we can filter people out by equity. We've talked a little bit about the probate and the inheritance aspect, and we can touch on that, look for people that have inherited a property, and we have other kinds of lists like for neglected and derelict properties and vacant properties we could talk about further too. But what we really are serving for you mostly is that we're doing the legwork for you, because usually make a call, I now get this information, now we go to work, and you can go off and do things that are more fruitful. Then you'll get an email or a phone call from us that says, well, we've got a count for you of 1,100 people in Arapahoe County that are owner-occupied and 400 that are non-owner-occupied, and we've got, in this type of list, we've got this count, and on this type of list, we've got that count. And then you're in an opportunity to say, to choose the list. Or to come to us and say, that count's too high, let's raise some of our numbers, let's lower some of our dates, till we get it just right for you. And we're doing that in the background while you're doing what you need to do. And often our lists are very inexpensive because we deal with all the title companies. It's a very competitive market. The prices are really quite low for most of the lists. So then the big thing is, first of all, is get the person the right list. Because the list is super important in anything you do. It's considered to be the most important thing in any really marketing step. So after we do that, I kind of pass it over here to Lonnie and let her carry on a little bit.
So actually, let me find out from everybody here. Do these focus on these targets make sense? Does anybody already doing this? So what are you, of these lists of these items, what have you seen as successful?
Non-owner.
Non-owner, okay. Anybody else want to share?
Neglected and derelict,
How are you finding those?
very careful.
Drive me by?
No.
No? Okay. You have another source then? Okay. All right. Well, terrific.
If you
Yeah.
want to ask me in person, I'll tell you.
Okay. Yeah. It's a need-to-know basis. Yeah. So.
I have worked very hard to get it.
Well, that's good. That's good. Yeah, we'd be interested to hear. I mean, we're always growing too. Yeah, so Harold is right. I mean, no matter what the piece looks like, you have to get it into the right hands and speak the language of the person that you're sending it to. All right. Send this aside here. Okay, so direct mail secrets. This is actually a lot of fun for me, and I don't know if you go through your mail as meticulously as I do because I want to see what other people are doing. I also try to learn from them. But the biggest things about direct mail is you have to have some key points to be considering. Is there a relevant message? So if you're sending it to somebody, for instance, who has adult children and they're about ready to move into an assisted living, that message would be relevant to the people that receive that mailing piece, okay? Oh, is it? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm used to karaoke. Everybody says, you're singing too loud. The marketing piece should be really easy to glance. One of the things that most of you know, because you're going through your own mail, is that you have 2 to 3 seconds to get somebody's attention, all right? If you haven't done it, then they're just gonna toss it, hopefully recycle it. So what do you need to get across? And we're gonna have another slide here, and we're gonna have a little fun with that. So what can you do to make it easy to glance? Timing is important, obviously, as well as a sense of urgency. So say something like, I have this offer for 24 hours, or I have, 1 month and you get X off. People like to hear things like free and discounts and so on. We all do. Include an offer or a call to action. Make them, with that sense of urgency, say, okay, I've got to contact them now because this may not even be next week or next month. And then, like we said, send your direct mail piece to the right targeted list. Okay, this is one of our clients in another state. We are very respectful of everybody's information, their messages, their direct mail pieces, and so on. So we are very reluctant to share anything. This happens to be a company that's no longer in business, so that's why I'm sharing it. So with this postcard, you can see that you've got a front right here, and then this is the address side. Can somebody tell me what's the relevant message here? Okay, yep, all right. And then timing, here's your timing message. Cash offer in 24 hours, okay? So that's important to a lot of people. They want to know something right away. Your call to action. And the other thing is this is the fun part for me. We all scan